Someone across the room yawns, and suddenly your own mouth is stretching open before you can stop it. You catch a yawn from a coworker in a meeting. You catch one just from reading the word yawn. Even your dog catches one from watching you. You're not even tired, so why does your body just obey? It turns out this isn't about sleepiness at all. There's a hidden wiring in your brain that makes someone else's yawn quietly hijack your own reflexes. Here's why watching someone yawn can force your body to yawn too. This happens to almost everyone, and it happens instantly, faster than you could ever decide to resist it. There's no moment of choice. Your body just moves, and it's not random who sets it off. You catch yawns more from people you're close to than from strangers, which makes this whole thing even stranger. Why would closeness matter for something so automatic? So here's the real question worth sitting with. Why would your brain force you to copy a completely meaningless action from someone else's mouth? Something is pulling the strings underneath that reflex, something that has nothing to do with being sleepy at all. Here's what's actually happening underneath that reflex. The trigger isn't tiredness at all. It's your eyes and ears picking up someone else's yawn and treating it as a signal worth copying. You could be fully rested, fully alert, and it still gets through. That's because the trigger point isn't in the part of your brain that tracks sleep. It's in a completely different system, one built for watching other people. Your brain is full of something called mirror neurons. Think of them as tiny internal actors that rehearse other people's movements the instant you see them. Watch someone reach for a cup, and a faint echo of that reaching motion fires in your own motor brain, even though your hand never moves. Watch someone wince in pain, and a flicker of that same discomfort circuit lights up in you. It's a built-in impression machine, constantly running in the background, copying the people around you without asking permission. Yawning gets caught in that same net. The moment you see or hear someone yawn, your brain fires the same regions it would use to produce your own yawn. Not a similar region, the same one. This is why it happens so fast. There's no pause where you consciously evaluate whether you're tired. The mimicry circuit fires first, and your mouth is already stretching open before your thinking brain even catches up. That's why reading the word yawn can do it too. You don't need to see a mouth open. Just the idea of it is enough to nudge the same circuit into action. But mimicry alone doesn't explain why yawning exists in the first place. Underneath that fast copying reflex is a slower, older process, and this is where things get interesting. Yawning appears to be tied to regulating brain temperature and alertness. Researchers have found that brain temperature rises slightly in the minutes before a yawn, then cools afterward. A yawn pulls in a big breath of air and stretches the jaw, increasing blood flow to the head and helping shed some of that extra heat, almost like cracking a window when a room gets stuffy. Your brain runs best in a narrow temperature range, and a yawn seems to be one small tool it uses to nudge itself back into that range, resetting alertness in the process. So you have two systems stacked on top of each other. The fast one is imitation, borrowed instantly from watching someone else. The slow one is internal thermostat work, quietly keeping your brain in its operating zone. Contagious yawning happens when the fast system reaches into the slow system and pulls the trigger early, even if your own thermostat hadn't asked for a reset yet. This stacking is also why the whole thing likely evolved in the first place. It's tempting to think of yawning as something purely private, a signal your own body sends only to itself. But if a group of animals, or a group of early humans, all needed to stay roughly in sync, ready to react at the same time, then a visible signal that spreads arousal and alertness across the group would be useful. One individual's brain signals a shift in state, and through mimicry, that shift ripples outward to everyone watching. It's less like a personal glitch and more like a group tuning fork, quietly nudging everyone toward the same wavelength of readiness. That framing also explains why closeness changes everything. Mirror neuron activity isn't fired equally for everyone you see. It responds more strongly to people you're socially bonded to, people your brain has already marked as part of your circle. Studies on contagious yawning consistently find people yawn more in response to close friends and family than to strangers or unfamiliar faces. Your brain isn't just mimicking a mouth movement, it's prioritizing synchronization with people it considers worth syncing with. Strangers barely register on this system. People you trust register strongly. And this instinct isn't uniquely human. It shows up across other social species too. Dogs, for example, will often yawn after watching their owner yawn, but rarely after watching a stranger do it. That detail alone is a strong clue that this isn't about verbal understanding or social politeness. Dogs don't know what yawning means the way we might explain it to each other. They're responding to the same underlying wiring, tuned by the same variable, closeness to the individual doing the yawning. Once you see this pattern, the ripple effect makes more sense too. In a quiet room, one person's yawn becomes the next person's visual trigger. That second yawn becomes a trigger for a third person. Each yawn isn't an isolated event, it's a fresh signal broadcasting outward, catching anyone whose mirror neurons are tuned to pick it up. What feels like coincidence, a wave of yawns moving through a meeting or a classroom, is really just the same mechanism firing person to person, each one setting off the next like dominoes lined up in a row. Here's the part that makes this whole reflex feel less like a malfunction. Once the mirror neuron signal fires and the yawn actually completes, the alarm resets itself. Your brain doesn't ask you to do anything else. The jaw stretches, the breath pulls in deep, the blood flow shifts, the brain cools slightly, and the cycle closes on its own. There's no lingering task, no follow-up step. It's a closed loop, start to finish, usually inside of a few seconds, which means the strange pull you feel isn't a sign your body is glitching, it's a sign the loop is running exactly the way it's supposed to. Knowing that, here's a small experiment worth trying. Next time you catch a yawn, don't fight it and don't just let it pass unnoticed either. Pause for 2 seconds afterward and ask yourself who triggered it. Was it a partner across the couch, a close coworker in a meeting, a friend on a video call, or was it something impersonal, a random video, a stray photo, even just the word yawn showing up in something you read? That tiny pause turns an automatic reflex into a quick window into your own social wiring. You're essentially watching your mirror neurons reveal who your brain considers close. This reframes the whole experience. What used to feel like your body embarrassingly failing to control itself in a meeting is actually your brain quietly doing its job, staying synchronized with the people around you. That synchronization instinct is old, and it runs across social species for a reason. It's not a weakness showing up at an inconvenient moment. It's a background process that's been running in social animals for a very long time, and you just happen to notice it firing. Over the next week, without turning it into a chore, just notice the pattern. Notice if you catch more yawns around people you're close to than around strangers on the street or people in a waiting room. Notice if scrolling past a video of someone yawning gets you every single time, while a stranger yawning across a subway car barely registers. Notice if simply hearing the word out loud, or reading it here in this sentence, has already made you feel that telltale pull in your jaw. These aren't random blips. They're data points showing you exactly how sensitive your mirror neuron system is to closeness, and exactly how little it cares about actual tiredness. You'll likely start noticing a rough shape to it. More yawns near people you trust, fewer around people you don't know, and sudden ones, triggered by nothing more than language or imagination. That contrast is the whole mystery, laid out in your own daily life. Not something abstract happening in a lab, but something you can catch happening in your own mouth, in real time, tied to real people you spend your day around. So the next time you're sitting across from a coworker, or lying next to a partner, or scrolling through your phone late at night, and a yawn sneaks in from nowhere, don't brush it off as just being tired. Use that 2-second pause. Notice who or what triggered it. Let yourself feel a little curious instead of a little annoyed, because that's not weakness, and it's not your body embarrassing you in front of other people. That's your brain's built-in alarm system, quietly syncing you with the people around you. The same ancient wiring that once helped groups stay alert together, still running today in meetings, in living rooms, and in quiet rooms, where one yawn turns into a wave. Next time it catches you, you'll know exactly what's happening underneath it.